Now that the actors are in place, we'll construct the framework to support missions in Traffic Department. We'll start by extending ship loading to an initialization sequence using data scripts for setting a default mission. The player simply needs to destroy all hostile ships and return to base for debriefing. We'll organize the scripts so that they can be easily extended to cover all missions down the road. All of our work today falls on the last slide of our design document. Our default mission consists of loading all the ships of a mission into the first wave and pushing go. The mission is over when all hostile ship types are destroyed by either the player or they run their planned path and deactivate themselves. To do this, we have to implement this function set. We'll also rely on a few data loading scripts that hold the default mission contents. Ultimately, they'll hold the entirety of a mission. There's two reasons I want to get a default mission working. First, it allows us to get the code scaffolding set up quickly. And second, a game beta tester can go through each of the missions using the default mission before we script the actual missions. So I'm going to start by making some changes to the ship object to set the default wave and then triggering the variable to tell the headquarters object to check for the mission update. Then we'll build the mission lifecycle from initialization through the checks and finally by allowing the player's ship to return to base. So in our ship initialization, we'll assign ships to wave 1 by default. When a ship is destroyed, it should tell the headquarters object to check if the wave is complete. We're setting a trigger on destroy because the ship will be completely gone in the next frame when the headquarters actually performs the check. We'll also add a tally to the player kills if they make the last shot. Now we want to get the ship's pointer to only point to ships that are part of the mission, so we're talking about the enemy ships in the default mission. We'll have to update the priority queue filter. Now it adds every ship, so we'll change to only add ships that the headquarters object has in its mission target list that we'll make soon. The final change for the ship is also with the pointer. If the mission is complete, we want the pointer to guide us back to home base. Remember that the headquarters object is performing double duty of mission control and acting as the physical home base in the city. The home base pointer will always be colored aqua. This function should probably be refactored to not have this branch on mission complete, but we'll put that off for now. So now onto the headquarters object. We'll need to add some declarations on create. Now these world coordinates down here are the start of the variables we need to manage the player's ship returning to base. We'll have to add 3 sprite frames for the front of the headquarters that will be drawn a layer over the player's ship. This way we can simulate entering the headquarters. We'll just find the sprite frames from the BLK file. So for episode 1, it's frames 68, 69, and 70. Let's fix those frame numbers as variables. Now for some mission settings. We'll have a flag for mission complete, a flag for player's death, our trigger to check for mission updates, the variable tracking the mission wave, and a variable holding the last wave of the mission that we compare to see if the mission's over. Finally, we'll have a string array that holds all of the messages for the mission. And in Traffic Department, each wave kicks off with a message. We'll need a list of data structures that hold NPC ships that are important for the mission. We'll initialize the mission on room start after we load the ships. I'll just call the whole process with a script called mission initialization. The script will take the current mission as its only argument. It sets the wave to 0 initially. Then we'll bring in all of our mission-specific data scripts that we haven't created yet. I'll separate them into messages, parameters, and wave information. We'll also set the player's ship type based on this variable that's set in the parameters script. Then we'll inactivate all ships that aren't part of the first wave. Now remember, all ships are initially brought in active on wave 1, but this script up here changes that. Finally, we'll end initialization and start the mission by running mission check, which on initialize will transition us to wave 1 and play the wave message. So we have quite a few subscripts here that have to do with defining the mission data. I'll create a group called mission content, and our first script sets the mission messages. Now, the format for our mission data will always be a switch statement based on the current mission. As we program up specific missions, we'll add a case for that mission here. For now, we'll just stick with the default case and add a couple of appropriate random messages. Wave 1 is our only wave, so its default message involves mission start. If the default mission reaches wave 2, the message will be some random mission complete notification. Again, as we program up specific missions, we'll fill in the space above the default with the case for that mission. The parameters follow the same idea, and this is where we set specifics for the mission. I'll just put a variable for nighttime missions for now and the player's ship type. Default is daytime and the Hornet ship. Finally, the ship waves. We really don't have anything to do here for now because all ships automatically come in on wave 1, which is our default case. All I'll do is set the last wave variable to 1. Now let's resolve the ship inactivation script. I'll scope this script to be callable from anywhere. And to inactivate a ship, we'll set the AI mode to inactive and make it invisible. Then we'll remove it from the mission target list if it's on there. I may as well duplicate this and make a ship activate script. This will be useful for when we have multiple waves and we have to activate ships that were inactivated at the start. We'll just reverse the whole idea. Set the default AI mode, visibility, and add mission targets if it's an enemy. Now the mission check is simple too. If the mission isn't complete, then we'll check the current wave. If it's 0, it's because we just initialized a new mission. Increment the wave and call Waive Activate, which is basically a macro for multiple ship activations based on their set wave number. If we're in the middle of a mission, we'll check to see if the wave is complete before moving to the next wave. Finally, if we're beyond the last wave, then the mission's complete. Now let's talk about Waive Activation. We take the wave number, compare it to all the ships, and activate them if they match. We know a wave is not clear if there are any ships assigned to the current wave who are also in the mission target list. Otherwise, the wave has been cleared. And that script resolves the chain all the way back to the mission init. Now there's a few more loose ends. Let me delete that debug ticker from the last video since we have a real ticker to test. So we need the headquarters object to check for the player's return if the mission is complete. Basically, if the complete flag is set, we'll compare the headquarters' current position with the player's current position. If they match, then we'll inactivate everything and set fading. We'll also move the player kills to the current game object so we can display them in the debriefing room. Which reminds me, I'm not sure if I added the intermediary variable here to the current game object as a holder. Nope, let's add it. Then I'll add a continuous check for player death to trigger on fading. Now here's the part where we draw those 3 headquarters sprites over the actual map position to make it look like the player ship is entering the building. On room end, we'll check to see if the player died in order to reverse the mission number and clear the kill count so the player can try again. Now to allow the player to enter the headquarters, we have to make the middle square not collidable with the player's ship. That middle sprite was frame 69, which is hex 45. Oh, one more thing. I forgot to make sure that the update check actually triggers in the headquarters after a ship is destroyed. The ship sets the variable, but we need to handle the other half of that. check for the player's death, then check for mission updates. Now let's test. There's our ticker message. I think all 20 ships are active in the first mission, so this could take a minute or so. Most of them will probably finish their run without fighting me. I'll just follow the red arrow and kill whoever I run into. Oh, I'm almost dead here. This never happens in the real Mission 1. I feel like the ships are harder to kill than in the original game right now. There we go. Mission complete. Let's return to base. And now we're in the debriefing room. If I had the speakers on, you could hear the music playing. So we've set up a default mission that will work with on any of the 59 game missions. Next time we'll backfill those data scripts to mirror the actual first mission of Traffic Department.